Hi guys.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
All good.
Good.
Thank you very
Okay.
much, Akanksha. I'm enjoying it a lot.
I am enjoying it too. I mean, see, I personally think whenever I do these sessions, I learn the most. It's like I get to learn, remember things. I get to understand things much better after these sessions are over.
Yes, I remember you saying that you learned from group breathing and all. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I have been doing that since childhood. I mean, I should have done that when I was doing my other like the entrance examinations, and but I later on discovered it while doing my USMLE. I used to read in groups like in study group, the study partner, and I then never left it. I used to love it. Okay, so today our agenda is to finish the chapters from Brentwood. So I found Brentwood to be particularly very helpful. Um, we read about we had fun with the cases that Raji had presented day before yesterday. Oh, yesterday, and we saw the normal patterns as to how the cases are going to look like. We understood how we are going to understand uh, do those cases and so forth. Now, what we are going to read over here in Brentwood is what are the variations to the cases, what are the differential diagnosis, and how we are going to uh, do some challenging cases. So they have given her here a couple of challenging cases that are interesting. So today the agenda is only to read from follicular lymphoma to lymphoplasmacytic lymphoma, and that will be the whole session. We'll not be doing any cases today. The cases that are in the drive will be done tomorrow, and they are already in the drive. I think Raji already placed them in the drive. So if you go into the daily material, let's see. Yeah, these 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So these will be your cases that you have to refer tomorrow before you come. But for today, we are going to just do that book. All set? Should I start?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I am just a second. Co-host. Remove co-host permission. Okay. And Raji is here. I think. Let me see if Raji is here. Yeah, Raji is here, and she will chime in when with her superb experience and everything. Whenever you guys have questions or whenever she has something to say. So she's really good at flow, and she has been doing flow for long very nicely. So I'm confident that she is the best person to teach here. Okay.
I'm not super good at flow. I'm also learning a lot from this group. That's a disclaimer. If I'm wrong or something at any point, correct me. I'm not perfect either.
I love your concepts. I really appreciate whenever you start teaching. I just you know what mantra mugdha hona is, like I just listen to you like without listening to anything else. So okay, let's start. So over here in the Brentwood, this is a CAP book, and you should have this book in the flow course material as well, in the general materials in the flow course. Let me show you where you'll find this. So if you have the materials in the general materials as well as some of the days I have also placed the flow book. So you would see this Flow Brentwood book. What you are seeing in my screen is different way, because I wanted to, the book that I had, as we were discussing yesterday, that it is a little blurry. So it is a little blurry and it becomes a little more blurry when the video is played. So that's why I am now projecting my CAP book that is from my own CAP website. And this is much clearer than the other book. But then like when you have to refer, you can refer to the other book. Okay. So in the initial things, they have discussed the history and everything. So that's something that we don't need to go into detail with. Can someone explain me what is going on in this image without reading? Go ahead, take someone. Anyone? Okay, let's start with one population, and I want you guys to start talking. Like it's not gonna work if you're doing just chat. I'm not gonna listen to any chats. We have two population. Tell me what population is this green population?
T cells, T lymphocytes.
Very good, very good. So these are T lymphocytes, and she says that because it is CD19 negative, it is CD5 positive. It's a nice population of T lymphocytes. Now, this population, we already know that it is 19 positive and 5 negative. It's a B lymphocyte population. So what makes you think that this population is abnormal?
Showing the kappa restriction.
Very good. So there is a kappa restriction in this population. And then rest of the things that we are seeing in this population is that it is CD10 positive, CD20 positive population. And again, the same population they have shown in pink. It's the same population that is in blue. Is this different tube that is it is in pink, and it is showing CD10, CD20 positive, kappa positive population. So over here they are showing. So basically, this is a run-of-the-mill case of follicular lymphoma. So we know that the follicular lymphoma I showed you yesterday, that you're going to sign it out as either you're going to sign it as abnormal B cell population identified, you're going to say whatever immunophenotype, or else you're going to say CD10 positive abnormal monoclonal B cell mature monoclonal B cell population identified. And that's how you're going to tackle this case. You can throw in the differentials in there, but you don't need to. You can just say that the morphology is needed for final diagnosis. So that we already covered till yesterday. And today we are going to see what are the variations. Anyone has comments? Okay, so today we are going to see what are the variations that they are talking about. So of course, we know that follicular lymphoma is 20% of all lymphomas. It's very, very common. And now they're telling what the expression would be, consists of proliferation of clonal CD19, 20 that expresses 10. The expression, so this is an important point. The expression of 19 is often decreased in follicular lymphoma. Let me know if I am highlighting, then it is making it better or worse. Like if it is not visible, if I'm highlighting, then I won't do that. So CD19 expression is often decreased in follicular lymphoma as compared to the normal B cells and follicular hyperplasia. So that is one important point. Light chain restriction is the norm. However, occasional cases, light chain restriction expression may be downregulated or even absent. That's the second point to remember, that the light chain expression can be downregulated or even absent. In such cases, evaluation of cytoplasmic light chain expression or establishing or evaluation of BCL2 on the population of interest will be helpful in establishing the diagnosis. So when you don't have the light chain, you go for cytoplasmic light chains or evaluation of BCL2. Interestingly, they do have at their wood list, they do have a BCL2 in their flow panel. Where I was before, and like in all the institutions that I was before, I didn't had a BCL2 by flow. But that's a good thing to have. If you have, then you can just do the BCL2 by flow. Similarly, CD10, although positive in majority of the cases, may be negative in minor subset of the cases. So these are all the variations that can be seen, and never say never, and especially flow cytometry, everything can happen. In the absence of CD10 expression, morphology generally brings follicular lymphoma into differential diagnosis. So when you have generally brings follicular lymphoma into differential diagnosis. Okay, in such cases, demonstration of BCL6 expression by IHC must be useful in establishing the germinal center origin of the neoplastic population, and FISH for BCL2 or BCL6 translocation may be considered to confirm the diagnosis. So again, when you have these kind of morphologic differences, then of course the morphology is going to come to safe, and then FISH for BCL2 and BCL6. Follicular lymphoma is typically negative for CD5. However, rare CD5 cases have been reported. So this is another morphologic variation. It's not very common, but it's reported. With one study suggesting that this immunophenotype may be frequently seen in floral variant. So this is something that theoretically you can remember. I mean, practically CD5 positive follicular lymphoma will be very hard to judge, and you will just mention that it is a B cell, abnormal B cell population with CD10, and subset of those cells are CD5 positive, and the differential includes, or maybe don't give the differential and leave it at that. So, but to remember that CD5 positive cases will be floral variant, like floral variant will be sometimes CD5 positive. The majority of follicular lymphoma overexpresses BCL2 as a result of translocation 1418, and then IGH BCL2 translocation. The BCL2 overexpression can be identified by immunohistochemistry or flow cytometry. That's what I was coming to, that they do have flow cytometry for BCL2, and is seen approximately 85 to 90% of the low-grade follicular lymphomas, but it's less common in intermediate grade. So this we already know, that the BCL2 expression or overexpression is usually seen in the grade 1 to 2 is higher as compared, like 80 to 90%, as compared to that seen in the intermediate or grade 3 follicular lymphoma, which is around 50%. So then something to remember, that BCL2 kind of gets lost or is not overexpressed in higher grades of follicular lymphoma. Go ahead. Someone was saying something?
يبون لين زينارة حتى أمروتي إجازة ممكن.
That's the background noise.
دكتورة زاد الله بها.
Yeah, that's the background noise. Yeah. So that's something to remember. So what we read over here, that less CD19 than the normal B cells and follicular hyperplasia, light chains that can be downregulated. Then you have to do cytoplasmic light chains, or BCL2 overexpression is going to help. And the CD10 can be negative, CD5 can be positive, especially in the floral variant. Now, this over here, they are showing the same thing that they were explaining earlier, that the light chains, they can be negative. So, for example, this is a nice CD10 positive, CD20 positive B cell population. So we know that this is an abnormal B cell population. But at the same time, this is negative for kappa and lambda. So basically, there is minimum of like a little bit of kappa, I would say, still, but still it's down here. It's almost negative for both of them. It's again CD38 negative, as you see over here, and CD19 is kind of partially there, and then CD10. So they have also done a BCL2, and they showed that this population is positive for BCL2. So that's what helped them more to call it like follicular. So they are saying that absent light chain expression, so kappa and lambda staining on the B cells show B cell population with absent surface light chain expression, that is magenta population. This abnormal population expresses CD10, variable CD20. The size of population is 70% of the white blood cells. So that's something that we report in our reports. Absence of CD38 expression C and low level of CD19 expression are all highly suggestive of follicular. So we saw that in follicular, the CD19 will be low level, CD38 will be absent, CD10 will be present, CD20 will be bright. And then are all highly suggestive of follicular lymphoma with demonstration of high levels of BCL2 expression confirming the diagnosis. So that's that. Now they're coming to reactive follicular hyperplasia versus follicular lymphoma over here. So what they're saying, in reactive follicular hyperplasia, I'm reading over here where my cursor is. In reactive follicular hyperplasia, reactive germinal center B cells are relatively expanded and may be identified as CD10 positive B cell population detectable by flow cytometry. So if you remember, we saw this in our introduction chapter, and also when we were reading our own introduction, that CD10 positive, CD38 positive B cell population that was more of reactive follicular hyperplasia. So that's what they're coming to over here. Just a second. That's what they're coming to over here. So they are saying that CD10 positive B cell population detected by flow cytometry. In contrast to follicular lymphoma, these populations typically show first that they will be polyclonal, and then there will be increased level of CD38 expression. So that's something that we have to remember. In some cases, reactive follicular center cells may show downregulation of light chain expression, giving the impression of light chain negativity. So again, they can be even light chain negative, and reactive follicular center populations may even show light chain restriction. So that's important too. Like you can have a CD10 positive population that is having light chain restriction, and that will be complicating the distinction from follicular lymphoma. In some cases, demonstration of additional antigenic abnormalities such as decreased CD19 or CD38, which is both more common in follicular lymphoma, may be helpful in distinguishing reactive follicular center population from the follicular lymphoma. So again, what they are saying over here, that follicular hyperplasia versus follicular lymphoma, the follicular hyperplasia will have increased expression of 30, will have 10 positive, and the light chains can be negative. There can also be a restriction, but then other points like decreased CD19, and in follicular lymphoma, the CD38 is, you can see as over here, decreased negative. So that's what will help you for follicular lymphoma. If it is bright CD38, then start thinking of something else as well. Let me mute someone. Okay, I'm muting all. You can just unmute yourself and start speaking. Okay. Of note, CD20 are reported to be slightly lower in follicular lymphoma as compared to reactive follicular hyperplasia. So this is also the point that we read before, that the reactive follicular hyperplasia was having a very bright CD20, if you guys remember what we read before. Additionally, demonstration of BCL2 overexpression by flow cytometry can be proven to be more definitive. So we don't have that, so that will not help us in our set places. In equivocal cases, correlation with morphology is generally helpful in distinguishing these diagnostic considerations. So then they are showing this over here. Let me. Okay. Okay. So can this be further enlarged? No. Okay. That's the biggest that I can make it, I think. Okay, I hope it is visible well. So this over here, they came to, on the right hand side, follicular lymphoma versus reactive follicular hyperplasia, and they are showing in A and B. Okay, so B cells include an expanded subset highlighted in orange, expressing CD10 with high levels of CD20, and B preferential kappa light chain restriction, raising the differential diagnosis of follicular lymphoma and follicular hyperplasia. The high levels of 38 over here and normal expression of 19. So it's not dim 19, it's not lower 19, it's like normal expression of 19. Both are favoring follicular hyperplasia, as does the demonstration of BCL2 is essentially absent in this population. So D, the BCL2 expression on the cells of interest is lower than that of the T cells. And T cells in green, and background. So this is lower in the BCL2 expression, and the background B cells, the population of interest is highlighted in orange arrow over here. And the background B cells are highlighted by blue arrow. So these are the background B cells, and this population is very bright. So if we just see this rather than reading this, let's see. This orange population is CD10. CD20 is very bright. It's kappa restricted. So that's what they were coming to, that it can be restricted as well. But then what is helping them is that it is very bright for 38, rather than over here on the left-hand side, you see that it is 38 kind of negative, and that's a usual thing for follicular lymphoma. So if it is very bright for 38, and also it is not dim for 19, usually the follicular lymphoma is positive for 19, but kind of not as bright as normal B cells. And then they are showing that this population was BCL2 negative. So this is the normal B cell population in the pink, and over here the orange population is the BCL2 negative population, and that's how they came to know that this is not follicular lymphoma but follicular hyperplasia. Of course, the morphology must have been there as well, but these are the clues that they are saying that are helpful. So, any questions in this one, guys? Anything you want to discuss that you want to add?
Lambda is also showing some positivity.
Yeah, but that is actually the normal B cell positivity. So basically, if you see this population, you can see that this population is made up of this and this cell. So this blue and this kind of red, these two are mixed over here. These two are mixed over here. So these are your normal B cells that are over here. But the abnormal cells are this orange population. So this is the orange. They have actually colored the orange and red similarly. That's why it is confusing you. But this blue and this red belongs to the same population of normal B cells.
Okay.
Okay. So any other questions, queries, something to add, guys? Okay, let's go ahead. Okay, so now they are saying that in addition to follicular lymphoma, CD10 positive B cells may also characterize diffuse large B cell lymphoma and are typical in Burkitt lymphoma as well. So we already saw that, and we said that these are your differential when you're talking about CD10 positive population. Now they are saying that in some cases, higher forward scatter may alert one to the diagnosis of DLBCL. However, there is an overlap between forward scatter characteristics of the cell comprising DLBCL and follicular. This overlap in forward scatter occurs not only because of follicular lymphoma cells of any grade often have higher forward scatter than reactive lymphocytes, but also because forward scatter of DLBCL may not always provide a reliable indicator of cell size. Correlation with morphology will be required to distinguish between follicular and DLBCL. In contrast to Burkitt's, the follicular lymphoma typically has low level expression of 38 and BCL2 is positive in most cases. Further, both DLBCL and Burkitt's lymphoma are more likely than follicular to express high levels of 71. So what they mentioned here, that the high side scatter and high forward scatter, they are going to suggest that the cell size is higher, but again they are not going to suggest that is it DLBCL or follicular, because some of the follicular cells, they are also higher than normal follicular center cells and bigger than the normal follicular center cells, and that is always in question too. And so that's not a reliable indicator. And then second, they are saying that so again, the correlation with morphology. And then they are saying, in contrast to Burkitt's lymphoma, the follicular, the clinching towards follicular will be low level of 38 and BCL2 that is positive in follicular. Then the third point that they are making over here is that both DLBCL and Burkitt's are more likely to express more likely to express high levels of CD71 as compared to the follicular lymphoma. So the follicular lymphoma is not going to have, like, usually there's nothing not in flow cytometry. Usually it will not have high levels of CD71. But DLBCL and Burkitt's lymphoma are more likely to have expression of CD71, high expression of CD71. Despite these differences, again, to definitively distinguish between three entities, correlation with morphology is required, and cytogenetics and FISH will be necessary. And in addition to establishing a diagnosis of follicular lymphoma, flow cytometry can serve as a useful adjunct to bone marrow staging in. So they came to a different point now. So the flow cytometric bone marrow staging of follicular lymphoma. So what they are saying that there can be very small, tiny populations on bone marrow of follicular lymphoma, and they are going to show how they are going to see that. So they are saying, as discussed in chapter 1 introduction, B cells in normal marrow range from hematogones or B cell precursors to mature B cells. So we know that we have read the hematogones, they'll have low level of 45, bright CD10, bright 38, without 20, or surface light chains. So I have been showing you that figure that I have shown before, and that you have seen that the hematogones, they have a spectrum. And that spectrum, there is the 20 comes late, if you remember, and then there is this bright CD10 that is early on. The CD10 kind of loses, and then the 20 kind of gains, if you remember all that spectrum. So they are showing the same thing. So they're saying the same thing here. Early hematogones will express low levels 45, bright CD10 and 38, without CD20 or surface light chains. So again, the surface light chains, they come late in the mature stages. Through the process of B cell maturation, these cells acquire CD20 and polyclonal surface light chain expression and lose both CD10 and 38. We have been reading this again and again. So this is something that you should always remember. Given the tightly regulated pattern of antigen expression associated with normal B cell development, an abnormal follicular lymphoma population can be isolated at very low levels given the distinctive immunophenotype noted above. The sensitivity of the flow cytometry in evaluating staging bone marrows of follicular lymphoma is debated in literature, with some studies showing detection rate lower than the morphology. And others suggesting that flow cytometry may have higher sensitivity than the morphology. However, it should be noted that most of the studies in the literature use a relatively small number of fluorochromes with relatively few events acquired and rely on a skewed kappa to lambda ratio, which the strategies which reduce the sensitivity of the assay. Additionally, the sensitivity of the flow cytometry may be limited by sampling error because the lymphoid infiltrates are more of paratrabecular and associated with fibrosis. Given these considerations, flow cytometry and morphology of a core biopsy are considered complementary. So over here, they are showing this, that what they are talking about, the low level bone marrow involvement, low level bone marrow involvement of follicular lymphoma. So let's see what they're saying and what populations they are describing here. So this demonstrates flow cytometry of staging marrow from a patient whose diagnostic lymph node biopsy is represented in figure 1.2. 1 to 2. Oh, so the previous figure that we had, the follicular lymphoma that we saw, so that was the lymph node, that diagnostic lymph node. Now this is the bone marrow from the same patient. A dot plot demonstrating CD45 versus site scatter demonstrate a distribution of cells that would be expected for the marrow with no increase in the lymphoid cells. So basically there is no increase in the lymphoid cells that are present over here. In evaluating the B cells specifically, the kappa to lambda ratio is noted to be overall normal. So again, the kappa to lambda ratio over here was noted to be normal. And so then like first thing that you see, okay, the kappa and lambda is normal, then you start thinking, okay, does really have anything? So then let's see how they are doing it. However, the CD10 positive B cells include a population without expression of 38 highlighted in magenta. So this population that now they have started segregating this population, and they are saying that this is CD10 positive and CD38 negative. So we know that follicular lymphoma pattern is like CD38 negative and CD10 positive. So now they started chasing this population. So highlighted in magenta, an abnormal ending suggestive of the follicular lymphoma. This population was just 0.4% of the white blood cells and is noted to express CD10, decreased CD19. So then they started chasing it, and then you can see that it is having decreased CD19 as compared to the normals. Absent light chain expression. So it does have like absent light chain expression as well. Identical to the known, so the previous, the 1-2 that we had that had absence of the light chain expression, that case that we saw, this is the same patient. So this also has the absent light chain expression similar to what they saw in the previous case. Notably, this abnormal B cell population differs from hematogones that are shown in yellow and aqua. So these are the hematogones that they have shown, and in that the lower level of 10, 19, 38 and higher level of 20 and 45. So what they are showing is, you can see these hematogones versus this population. So these hematogones are more of having this spectrum. And as we discussed about the spectrum, that it will be CD10 high, and then it will start losing the CD10, it will start gaining the CD20. So that's what your normal hematogone population is, that it is kind of going from here to here. And again, it is CD19 positive, but then it is eventually kind of losing their tens and so forth. But the population of interest over here is really 0.4%. And that 0.4% of population, they started chasing by seeing that it is CD10 negative, positive and CD38 negative. And then they saw that this population is dim for CD19 as compared to the normal hematogones or as compared to the normal B cells. And then they had the other plots so that it is CD20 is over here as well. And so it's a B cell population. We know it's CD19, 20 positive, CD10 is positive, CD38 is negative, and it is having a different immunophenotype like what a hematogone will have. So this kind of 0.4% of involvement you will not see on morphology. So then these cases become challenging, and God forbid, I don't know how many I must have missed these cases. I'm not sure, but I hope that I get better in identifying these cases. Any questions so far? Am I going too fast? Am I speaking too fast? I have that tendency.
No, it's okay.
Is it too challenging? Is it blowing your mind off?
Actually, the first time it's just a bit hard, but I think once we'll read it again, it'll be easier.
Yeah, that's why I have the book in the group as well. So I know that this highlights are gonna go away, and you anyways don't have access to this book. But go back, read yourself, and flow cytometry. The easy flow cytometry is very easy, but when you start having these kind of small populations or two populations or two diagnoses or stuff like that, then it becomes challenging. So that's why we are reading this, so that we can do what we are supposed to do. If you are reading the flow cytometry, if you are in this course just for your exam purposes or just for knowing what a flow cytometry is about, you are not planning to practice flow cytometry in your practice, then just for exam purposes, then you don't need to learn all of this. Maybe you just need to learn what the regular cases are and just know their immunophenotype and be done with it. But if you're planning to install a flow cytometry at your place, like I know that some people are over here, then you will need to learn all these intricacies and how to find these populations, how to be good at flow cytometry and everything. So then this kind of reading will be helpful for those guys. Okay, so if you have no questions on follicular, we can go ahead. Let me know if you have any questions we can discuss right now. No questions? All right. So someone wants to describe this this flow cytometry. This is a normal, nice flow cytometry. We had similar case yesterday.
We are having a population which is kappa restricted of B cell, and it is also showing a CD5 expression, a variable CD20, and it is CD23 positive, and FMC7 negative.
Cool. And what are those populations that they are showing in circles?
Is that normal B cells?
Very good. Yes. So that's what they are showing. You know that they are normal B cells because they are CD5 negative and CD20 positive, as you see over here, and they are polyclonal by kappa and lambda. So those are the normal B cells of the background. And as correctly described, this B cell population that is dim for CD20. So it's positive but dim for CD20. And then it's kappa restricted. It's CD5 positive and CD23 positive. So based on that, we know that we are dealing with a CLL here. Again, negative for FMC7. Yeah, go ahead.
Why are we not calling it intermediate to negative like that, or why are we calling it dim?
So DIM, because see, as we discussed in our earlier session, that they compare the intensity of this particular population to the normal B cell population, and it is dim than the normal B cell population. So that's how it will be defined as, but it is not completely negative. It is not lying over here. So it is still there. So whatever you want to describe it, you can describe it as variable with partial positivity. You can describe it as intermediate. You can describe it as dim positive, but it is still positive. That's the important gist. You get that?
Yeah.
So let me hide these controls. Okay. So CLL, we don't need to go into big detail on the introduction. Let's read what they are rewriting from here. So CLL is a neoplasm of mature B cell that characteristically express B cell markers, demonstrate clonality, and show aberrant expression of 5 and 23. CD19 is typically positive in CLL, as is CD20. However, CD20 is characteristically low, as is the light chain expression. So again, so you can see that the light chain, this kappa is not right over here. Why that is important, we'll see. And this, I mean, you have already seen like yesterday. And this 20 is not over here. It is not like a bright 20 and a bright kappa. It is dim 20 and dim kappa. That's a feature of CLL. So CD10 is negative in CLL, allowing distinction from follicular lymphoma. CD5 expression is characteristic of both CLL, SLL, and mantle cell. These two malignancies can typically be distinguished on the basis of expression of CD23 by CLL and low-level expression of both 20 and surface light chain by CLL. So that's what I was coming, that low-level positivity for kappa, for light chains, and for CD20. Additionally, FMC7 is usually negative in CLL, SLL, and may be helpful in distinguishing these entities. Although CLL, SLL is typically clonal, occasional biclonal cases have been described. Although such cases have near normal kappa to lambda ratio, aberrant expression of antigens including 5, 20, and 23 and surface light chain will allow the recognition of the biclonal CLL, SLL. So, but the biclonal cases can be seen. I have seen with some cases that are biclonal, and however, they will, what cases I have seen, they were all having CD5, 20, and 23 and surface light chain expression, just that they look either biclonal or else they are bimodal, anything of that. The presence of a second clone in addition to primary CLL, SLL clone may be seen in some cases. So second clone in the addition to the primary clone. So this finding raises the possibility of a composite lymphoma or possibly CLL/SLL with transformation to large cell lymphoma or Richter's transformation. The first of these possibilities may be considered in cases when second population expressing the light chains that differ from CLL is noted, while the presence of second population with high forward scatter characteristic of large cells raises the later possibility. So they are showing this in this biclonal population in this picture. And so in this, let's try to orient ourselves what's going on here. This population is, there are two populations that can be clearly identified. Both of these populations are CD5 positive. But however, this red population is brighter for CD5 as compared to this blue population, but both of them are positive. And then the CD20 is expressed in both of them. So that's that. This population is kappa. So this basically, this blue population is more towards going dim kappa positive. This red population is more going towards lambda. And so CD5, and then both of these populations are CD23 positive. And then they said that the FMC7 was absent. The data is not shown. And so basically they are showing that these are two biclonal population of CLL, SLL. So this is not a secondary malignancy. This is those are the two clones that are of the same disease entity. So basically all of these, they are 19, that is the same dim that it should be. There are the 23 positive, there are 5 positive, there are 20 the same dim as it should be. So it is all going towards CLL, just that there are two clones of that CLL. So that's biclonal population. Then coming to CLL with secondary lymphoid malignancy. So this becomes even more challenging. and it might blow your mind as it did for me. You do see those in your clinical practice. I have seen like many, I have seen many that were diagnosed by my attendings at MSK, and they used to chase many like tiny dots and many different kind of populations. They used to chase all the populations. I try to be as good as them. I'm still learning, but let's see what they are showing over here. So CLL with secondary lymphoid malignancy. Flow cytometry from this lymph node show dominant population of lymphoid cell composed of mixture of T cells, that is in green. So CD5 negative, positive, CD20 negative, and B cells, that are these two populations. The B cells show normal kappa to lambda ratio. So that's something that is because of what we will see, but it is having a normal kappa to lambda ratio. But light chain expression is a bimodal, and two populations are notable for aberrant antigen expression. A population is noted in the upper middle panel that expresses lambda light chain. So the upper middle panel, there is a population. So this red population that is expressing lambda light chain, that is red, and aberrant co-expression of CD5. So this population is having CD5, as you see on the red population again. So this is another tube of the same thing. And this, they now colored the same population as blue over here. So basically this population is CD20 positive, CD5 positive, lambda restricted. So so over here they're saying the population is noted in the upper middle panel, that is lambda, with aberrant co-expression of CD5 and decreased CD20. A second population, now they are talking about the second population, is most notable in the upper right panel, this population. So this population is more kappa restricted. As you see over here, the blue population is more kappa restricted. So upper right panel that expresses kappa light chain with aberrant expression of CD10. So this is actually CD10 positive rather than CD5 positive, and decreased CD9. And again, the follicular lymphoma kind of characteristics. So CD10 positive, decreased CD9. That's what 19. That's what they are showing over here as well. 10 positive and 19 decreased, or positive but decreased. Gates are drawn on the both populations and colored aqua and orange respectively. So again, this is a different tube. They have colored differently, but basically having the same population. The aqua colored population expresses low CD23. So now they have followed this aqua colored population in this graph. And in this graph, they are showing that this population has low CD23 and it is CD5 positive. So this population is consistent with what? So basically it is CD5 positive, DIM positive for CD20, DIM positive for CD23. So this population is CLL, right? Right?
Yes.
Yes. And then they are chasing this population, which is kappa predominant, which is kappa restricted. And this population, they went again here. This is CD10 positive, CD19 DIM, and this is DIM for CD38, as we saw in the follicular lymphoma. So it is having all the characteristics of follicular lymphoma, and that's what they are saying, that this is having two malignancies together. This case was also having CLL, both CLL as well as follicular lymphoma, or a composite lymphoma that was present in this case. Does that make sense?
Was there any other way to confirm that this was actually CLL and follicular lymphoma?
Morphology. I mean, you will see it on morphology too.
Okay.
Yeah, you will see it on morphology too. I mean, there would be areas of CLL and follicular lymphoma together. Since this is a lymph node, if you think of a lymph node, you will see the areas that have typical CLL, you'll see an area that has typical follicular lymphoma. And when you have the flow that is also suggestive, then you can confidently say that, yes, that's what is going on here.
This cells which we are seeing as kappa bright and lambda bright, are these the normal B cells?
No, they are not the normal B cells. They are bimodal population of B cells that are separately clonal. Because when you follow these cells, they if you see, there are two kind of this over here. So you can see this, that is lambda positive, and this population that is lambda positive. Again, over here, this population that is kappa positive, and this population that is kappa positive. You can see there is like 4 blobs that you can see over here. They have chased this blob, which went over here, which went over here. And they have chased this blob, which went over here, which went over here. I would think that there are some normal B cells in the background as well, which are polyclonal. But depending on what they are gating and what they have gated and how it looked like, I think that's what they are showing, that this population is kind of this 2 populations are, I think, some of it might have a polyclonal expression as well. But I think they have gone after the population that was more of see, I'll tell you, it is very hard to see in this actually, because this is not the whole picture. The whole flow cytometry will be 3 or 4 plots, and they will be going after each and everything, and they will be seeing which ones are normal, which ones are abnormal. They are going after abnormal over here, but I have a suspicion that there is a background polyclonal that is normal polyclonal that is present as well.
Yeah, I agree.
This population.
Right, the population that is brighter for kappa and brighter for lambda appears to be normal. I don't think they have chased that one.
Right, exactly.
Right,
so they went after these populations. Mind blown?
Yeah, a little bit, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, my mind also gets blown when these things happen, and it's not unusual to have mind blown on these things.
These things are not very common, but when you see it, you will actually pick it up. It may look scary when you read it in a book, but when you see it, when you are seeing flows regularly, that pattern of where things should be get registered in your mind. And when you see something that is out of place, you will automatically pick it up. So it might seem scary, but it is not that scary actually.
And again, fortunately, it doesn't happen as often. That's the most important thing. Usually, the run-of-the-mill cases will be your normal cases that will be very easy to understand. If you find such cases, you can always show to other people. You can always send it out and tell, okay, I don't know what exactly going on. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah,
so
and because it is not common, your mind will automatically go to that. Okay, this is not something that I see in all the other plots. So you will pick it up. Don't worry about it.
Any questions, guys? Okay. All right, let's read what else they have to tell us. So it is important to establish, they now are going into the 5 × 10⁹ for the CLL, that is should be in the peripheral blood. And if it is less than 5 × 10⁹, that should be called as MBL. And MBL can be seen in 3.5 to 12% of the healthy adults. So that's what they say. Now they are going into the ZAP70 and CD38. So as Raji yesterday told that CD38 is important in CLL, and you have to mention how much positivity is there in the CLL as well. Why is that important? Because of the prognostic reasons, and they do have in their labs over here that they do have a ZAP70 as well. We don't have that, but the ZAP70 when present in the lab, definitely it will help in the prognostic way as well. So CD38 and ZAP70 are the 2 prognostic markers that we should remember. And if present in our labs, we have to definitely report them, how positive, negative, and how much positive and how much negative. So that's about CLL.
That CD38 expression in CLL, it's not about the intensity, right? It's just the expression positive or negative, right?
So, I mean, it's about positive and negative, and they are saying that greater than 30% of CD30, the 38 that is positive, is associated with poorer prognosis. So that's why it is good if you just tell them, okay, this is 35% positive or something like that. So, I mean, they might or might not know about the 30% cutoff, but those who know, they will know that, yeah, it is more than 30%.
It's not the intensity. I think yesterday I just misspoke that. It is the percentage. That's what I meant when I said it's intensity. I'm sorry about that.
Thank
Is
you.
that why you're asking this question?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't mean intensity. I actually meant the percentage, but it accidentally came out as intensity.
Okay.
Someone was asking something else?
I was saying something. Hi, Akanksha.
Hi, Monica.
I was saying that if I remember clearly, ZAP70 is no longer a prognostic marker now.
Oh, really?
Yes, if I'm right. I think
No,
I read
actually,
that
we
somewhere.
still report about it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard about that. Maybe in a new paper or something.
Yeah, there is some. That's what I remember. I'll have to
Oh.
cross check. Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually did ZAP70 even last week, and it was done for prognosis, but I will check whatever you said.
Yeah, I think
maybe
we can check that.
maybe we can read like what paper they are talking about, and is it a kind of a paper that is
I'll try to find out and forward it to you.
Yeah, forward in the group.
I think it is a
I will do that.
I think it is a surrogate for IGVHV mutation, and if you can directly do the IGVH analysis, then there is no need for doing ZAP70.
Ah, easily. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think
ZAP70
yes,
is
he's right.
surrogate.
He's right, but yeah.
So these days people are doing next generation sequencing for CLL, and they are trying to actually sequence the mutation, the heavy chain region. So they will use that for MRD follow-ups. So that could be one reason why you don't do ZAP70, because it's like redundant. But as such, the prognostic significance, I'm not sure if it is lost yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to read that paper, whatever said that about ZAP70. But yeah, good discussion. Good to know all of that.
You can share that paper, that would be great.
Yeah, send that paper. Monica, just send that paper. If you could
I'll
find
do that.
it again, if you get time to search for it, just
I
search
will
for
do
it.
that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's go into mantle cell. Anyone wants to describe this plot?
There is a B cell population which is CD19 and expressing CD19 and 20. It's lambda restricted, CD23 and FMC negative, and CD38 I would say variable actually.
Okay, so let's see. Let's compare this with what we saw previously. First thing that you would notice that, okay, both of like the previous case CLL and this case, both of them were CD5 positive, right? Both of them are B cells. But what are the differences? First difference is that this CD20 is not lying here. It is not dim positive. It is bright positive. So this is the first thing that you notice over here. The second thing you notice, the CD23 was positive in the previous case, dim positive, but it is completely negative here. FMC7, interestingly, if you see, it is not just lying a blob that is lying over here. There is this positive, partial positive, or positive population that is present over here for FMC7. FMC7 tends to many a times do that in mantle cell lymphoma. It kind of has that partial appearance of positivity. Sometimes it does sit over here and it is very nice and bright and you don't have any questions about that. But there are cases like, if you remember the second case that Raji showed yesterday, it had, she showed two cases of mantle cell yesterday. And the first case that was having partial C for FMC7, it was also CD23 negative. It was also CD5 positive. And that was also turned out to be mantle cell over here. And then the second case was brightly positive for FMC7. So this thing that you have to remember, that it can have low FMC7 without CD23. So that is still important for mantle cell. And CD38, it doesn't like have any prognostic significance in this one, but you can see that it is CD38 is positive. And again, this population is more lambda. And if you see this blue population and this kind of orangish population, those are your background polyclonal B cells. So that's something that you can see over here. And these cells, again, green cells, they are your T cells. So that's that. So this is a mantle cell lymphoma. And so mantle cell lymphoma, this is 19 positive, 20 bright, 5 positive, 23 negative, FMC7 low positive but positive, and CD38 positive, lambda restricted. So now we are coming to mantle cell lymphoma accounts for approximately 33 to 10% of non-Hodgkin's lymphomas. This mature B-cell neoplasm most commonly involves lymph nodes and frequently involves GIT. In fact, the mantle cell lymphoma is most common cause of lymphomatoid polyposis. We already know that. The marrow and spleen are often involved, and peripheral blood may be involved as well. And occasional patients will be presenting as lymphocytosis. Mantle cell lymphoma is a mature B-cell neoplasm consisting of clonal CD5 positive that lack CD10. In contrast to CLL, the mantle cell characteristically show bright CD20 and bright surface light chain. So that's another thing, that it's having this. So the other one was sitting kind of dim at the surface light chain. Over here, this one is sitting at the bright surface light chain without CD23. So these 2-3 points are important to remember. Emerging data suggests that CD200, which is negative in mantle cell lymphoma but positive in CLL, may assist in the differential diagnosis as well. So again, we saw the CD200, which was positive in CLL in our case. Although the characteristic immunophenotype is present in majority of the cases, a subset of the cases, up to 40% of the study, may display immunophenotypic variation. So now they are talking about the variations. CD23 expression can be reported in 21 to 25% of the cases. But again, when it is present, it will be more commonly dim. So it will not be bright, it will be being dim. CD23 can be present in 21 to 25% of the cases. CD5 can be negative. So we know about the CD5 negative mantle cells already. So CD5 negative mantle cell lymphoma are present in minor subset, and that can be seen as well. Although unusual, rare CD10 positive cases has been reported as well. So again, it can be CD10 positive as well. And then given this noted immunophenotypic variation, the absence of characteristic immunophenotype does not entirely exclude a diagnosis of MCL. And if clinical suspicion is high, and because the MCL, the stakes are high, so you definitely have to do the cyclin D1, FISH for 1114, IGH CCND translocation, and to definitively exclude the mantle cell. Similarly, the characteristic immunophenotype for mantle cell is not entirely specific and may be seen in atypical CLL. So that's important. The characteristic immunophenotype of mantle cell can be seen in atypical CLL, B prolymphocytic leukemia, and CD5 positive DLBCL. So that's why we don't commit in flow cytometry. We don't say clearly that it is suggestive of mantle cell. No. Just say that it is a CD5 positive abnormal monoclonal mature B cell population that is present. So the three differentials are typical CLL, BPLL, and CD5 positive DLBCL. So now they are saying, in addition to showing morphologic differences, the later two considerations often show forward scatter that will be large, the characteristic of the large cells, providing a flow cytometric clue that an alternative diagnosis should be considered. But in cases with increased forward scatter, there is also a variant that is a blastoid variant of mantle cell lymphoma that should also be considered. Given the presence of well-described immunophenotypic variation in mantle cell lymphoma, the relative lack of specificity of the immunophenotype, the characteristic immunophenotype, although suggestive of mantle cell, is not considered entirely diagnostic. Cases suspected to represent mantle cell by flow cytometry must be confirmed by FISH or 1114 and or by immunohistochemistry for cyclin D1 for definitive classification. Figure 3.2, the next figure, highlights the immunophenotypic features helpful in distinguishing mantle cell from CD5 positive B cell neoplasm. So let's see what. So they said that mantle cell lymphomatous we know about that. So clonal CD5, lack CD10, bright expression of 20, bright surface light chains, no CD23. However, the variations CD23 can be absent in or dim present. CD23 can be present or dim present, can be in 21 to 25% cases. CD5 can be absent, CD10 can be present. Again, all of this will be this IGH, CCND, and cyclin D1. That's going to help you. And the differentials in flow for this type of immunophenotype also is atypical CLL, BPLL, and CD5 positive DLBCL. And then these two, the PLLs and DLBCL, there will be high forward scatter. But when there is a high forward scatter, you should also keep a blastoid variant of MCL in your mind. And again, cyclin D1 and FISH are going to help you. So then they said that differential diagnosis of MCL. The plots show CD19 positive B cells, CD19 positive B cells, 19 positive. So this whole plot is from the CD19 positive B cell that they have taken. Just a second. Okay, this whole thing is from CD19 positive B cells, and in the differential diagnosis from for CD5 positive B cell neoplasm are mantle cell, CLL, and diffuse large B cell lymphoma. An example of mantle cell is shown on the left in red, and an example of CLL is shown on right in aqua. So over here, the mantle cell and CLL, let's see the differentials. Let's see what the differences we see. First thing, that both of them are CD5 positive. This one is bright CD20 positive. This one is dim CD20 positive. Over here, as I was saying, that mantle cell can have low level expression of FMC7, which is still positive. And this is completely sitting down here. So this is still considered a positive FMC7, which is subset. And like dim or negative for CD23, not dim, negative for CD23. So this is more of mantle cell. And this over here is having this CD23 that is present and FMC7 that is negative. So then in B, they are saying an example of mantle cell is shown in the upper panel, and an example of DLBCL is shown in the lower panel. The forward scatter of the neoplastic population is typically higher in case of DLBCL. So you can see over here, this forward scatter, as you compare to this forward scatter, the DLBCL has higher forward scatter. Typically higher than in DLBCL. So forward scatter of the neoplastic population is typically higher in DLBCL than in mantle cell. However, as cells in mantle cell lymphoma may be intermediate in size or even larger in size in the blastoid variant, morphologic, immunophenotypic, and genetic correlation is required for diagnosis. So that's that. Cool. So we have two more topics that are small topics, LPL and marginal zone, to finish today. Any questions so far? Anything to add?
No.
Okay, cool. All right. So one thing to note that we should remember, marginal zone and lymphoplasmacytic. When you have marginal zone, they are showing a case that has plasmacytoid differentiation that will be coming later. If you have a marginal zone with plasmacytoid differentiation, or else if you have a lymphoplasmacytic lymphoma, on flow cytometry, it will be very hard to say one or the other. In fact, what we say in these cases is we have a CD5 negative, CD10 negative B cell population, mature B cell population, which is whatever restricted, kappa lambda restricted. You can say that the differentials might include marginal or LPL, or you might just leave it at that and say that the correlation should be made on the tissue. So over here you can see, so they are showing a case of marginal zone lymphoma, and look into this black arrow population. So this black or orange population that they are showing, this population is lambda restricted. So CD19 positive, lambda restricted. This is CD10 positive population, and CD5 positive, CD10 negative population and CD5 negative population. And CD38 is also negative, CD20 is positive, and there is some subset that is like this. Actually, the whole thing is positive for CD43. CD43 is another marker for marginal zone. When present, helpful. When not present, not helpful. It can be present in subset of cases of marginal zone and differs based on the localization where the marginal zone is present. But this is a case of marginal zone. So let's see what they are saying. Flow cytometry demonstrates a sample consists of predominantly of lymphocytes. Most of them are B cells. So we know that most of these cells are the B cells. The B cells show decreased kappa to lambda ratio. So there was a decreased kappa to lambda ratio in this one. Due to expansion of the lambda, CD19 low, CD19 low, CD38 low, CD43 low, B cells that lack 5 and 10. The aberrant antigen expression shows separation of abnormal B cell population from the normal polyclonal background B cells. So there are some polyclonal background B cells that are present as well. They're hiding in here, but there are some present as well. Concurrent morphology was consistent with extranodal marginal zone lymphoma, representing B cell lymphoma of mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue. All right. So again, CD5, CD10 negative, usually both LPL marginal zone, usual cases, they are CD5, CD10 negative B cell populations. So marginal zone lymphoma composed of CD19, CD20 positive clonal B cells that typically lack CD5 and CD10. Rare cases of CD5 positive marginal zone lymphoma have been reported. So it's variable in the studies, and some studies report 0%, some studies report 12.1%. In such cases, correlation with immunohistochemistry for cyclin D1 and FISH for 11-14 translocation is required to exclude the possibility of mantle cell lymphoma. Of note, the expression of CD5 in marginal zone lymphoma is not associated with differentials of the survival. The CD10 expression is rarely reported. In very rare cases, we don't have to even read them, or like 0.0 to 2% of the cases. It's more of theoretical though. In rare cases, when present, the expression raises the differential for follicular, right? Then clinical morphologic and genetic correlation is required in such cases for lymphoma subclassification. The immunophenotype of marginal zone lymphoma overlaps that of the LPL. That's what I was coming to. And these entities cannot be reliably distinguished by flow cytometry. CD43 is expressed in a subset of marginal zone and may aid in the establishing the diagnosis. CD43 is reported to be expressed in 10 to 15% of the nodal and splenic, and 36% of the extranodal, with frequency ranging from over 40% in the sites including stomach, salivary gland, upper aerodigestive gland, less than 20% for ocular, skin, and thyroid gland. So the frequency varies, but it can be present. CD43, when present, is helpful, can be present in over 40% of the cases of those sites, including stomach. Although the presence of CD43 co-expression can be helpful, it must be used in conjunction with the other findings because the CD43 can be co-expressed in some reactive settings as well. Marginal zone lymphoma may be associated with plasmacytoid component. So now they are coming to a different scenario. When the marginal zone lymphoma, they are having plasmacytoid differentiation or a plasmacytoid component that can occasionally be the dominant population. So for example, in this image, they have shown two populations. One of them is more of plasmacytoid and another one is more of B cell. And when you see that kind of population, it will be very hard to differentiate whether it is LPL or marginal zone. And basically the distinction will be made on clinical basis. So amongst the external marginal zone, a prominent plasma cell population is most common. So where will be it seen most commonly? In breast, upper aerodigestive tract, skin, and salivary gland. When considering the diagnosis of plasmacytoma in anatomic site characteristic of mantle cell lymphoma, care should be taken to exclude the possibility of marginal zone with extreme plasmacytoid differentiation. So think of rather than thinking of zebras, start thinking of the more common things first. So marginal zone with extreme plasmacytoid differentiation is more common in those sites as compared to the plasmacytoma. The presence of concurrent abnormal B cell population and expression of increased CD19. So now they are saying that how would you know that the plasma cell lymphoma, to differentiate between the plasmacytoid differentiation of the marginal zone lymphoma? So now we should know for that the plasma cell lymphoma or plasma cell neoplasm, the plasma cell neoplasm would be having certain characteristics which are aberrant than the normal plasma cells. What are those characteristics? Those will be CD19 negative, CD45 negative, expression of aberrant markers, for example, CD56, CD117, and then so those are the aberrancies that are usually seen in the plasma cell neoplasm. There are others, but those are the more common ones. And so this aberrancy of the plasma cell neoplasm will not be present in these cases which has marginal zone with extreme plasmacytoid differentiation. So what they're saying, there will be an expression of increased 19. So as I said, the 19 will be absent in case of plasma cell neoplasm. 45, again, there will be a presence of 45 in these plasmacytoid differentiations, however, absent in plasma cell neoplasms. And surface light chain. So again, we know that plasma cell neoplasms have cytoplasmic light chain. They do not have surface light chain. So the presence of surface light chain is again going towards B cell without CD56. So again, plasma cells, they tend to gain aberrant markers, amongst which CD56 is very common. So CD56 will not be present in these cases. So all of this would favor marginal zone with extreme plasmacytoid differentiation. Is that clear? Is that clear? Should I explain it again?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Clear or explain it again?
Good.
Clear.
Clear. Clear. Okay, good. All right. So this is marginal zone lymphoma with extreme plasmacytoid differentiation. So you have two populations over here. There is this magenta population and there is this blue population. So this, let's see what this blue population is doing, and let's see what this magenta population is doing. And there is this population that is a mixture of that is a CD20 positive population that is a mixture of kappa and lambda. So that those are your normal B cells. The abnormal populations are these two. So the first thing first, this blue population is bright positive for CD38. Is dim for CD20. So we already saw that the plasma cell population will not be expressing CD20. If you remember that figure that I showed you, it will not be expressing CD20, is more of a mature B cell marker. It is not a plasma cell marker. So CD38 bright, CD20 negative. So we know that this is a plasma cell population. What this plasma cell population is doing, this plasma cell population is CD19 positive. So it has not lost its 19. So it's not a plasma cell population, plasma cell neoplasm population. It has CD19. And then it is not having CD5 for obvious reasons. There is no gain of 56 in this blue population. So this is basically negative for 56 as well. And however, it is a surface kappa restricted population. So this, we know that it is an abnormal plasmacytoid, but again having like B cell phenotype with kappa restriction. Actually, this was also cytoplasmic kappa, so it's more of a plasma cell population that is abnormal. But again, it's not a plasma cell neoplasm kind of abnormality. It is that it is a restricted population and it is abnormal. Coming to this population, that is CD19 positive, CD20 positive. So this CD19, CD20 population is, we know, a B cell population. What it is doing over here, it is having some degree of CD38 that is present. And this population is negative, so they're hiding in here, but they are negative for CD5. And this population, it is also hiding again in here, but it is also kappa restricted. So this population is a separate population of B cells that is CD5 negative, and it was also CD10 negative, I believe, and it's kappa restricted as well. So we have two populations in here, which is plasma cell and B cell, and both of them are kappa restricted. And the plasma cell phenotype is not like that of a plasma cell neoplasm. It is more of a plasmacytoid differentiation of that same B cell clone, of the same kappa B cell clone that was present. So there is just a plasmacytoid differentiation of the same plasma cell, of the same B cell clone that was present, that are both of them are kappa restricted. So that's what they are showing over here. Yeah, so they're saying that in conjunction with the presence of abnormal B cell component, it shows that allows the distinction of the primary plasma cell. So basically they are saying that the abnormal B cells and plasma cell populations in this case are clonally related and together represents a marginal zone with extreme plasmacytoid differentiation. So similarly, what you would see in this next case is, this case is a case of LPL. Someone wants to tell, like, you have to look at it for 5 minutes and tell me what you think of how you describe this case. It will be easier because we did the previous case. Take your time.
We have here CD19 positive cells with kappa restriction, and 38 positive, and I think 20 negative.
Okay.
And 10 and 5 dual negative, with again 38 positive.
So you have to start thinking of, there are two populations that they have colored. That should be
Yeah.
your clue that these are
So,
two different populations. So now
okay. So
chase
the
both the populations.
other population is brighter for 19, and it has, again, that is also kappa restricted, and it is 20 positive but 38 negative, and it shows somewhat 5 positivity, not too much, but still it is there, and 38 is negative, and 56 I think is a little bit a dim positivity in the second population.
Okay, so good, very good. So now let's see what we are dealing with here. There is this aqua population and there is this blue population. So this blue population is CD20 positive, CD38 negative. So this is a B cell population. This is also CD19 positive. Both of these populations, as she said, Sagarika, right? As she said, they were both kappa positive. Both of these populations are CD5, CD10 negative. Actually, both like this, if someone may say that there is a partial CD5, but to me, or both of them are negative. But this population that is in aqua, it has CD38. It is CD20 negative. We know that it is a plasma cell population. It is CD19. It's also kappa. And then it is not expressing any 56 like our previous case. And this population is also 5 and 10 negative. So we have two populations here. One of them is a B cell population that is 20 positive and 38 negative. The other one is a plasma cell population that is also is kappa restricted. We know that it is abnormal plasma cell population, but it is not having the other immunophenotypic features of a plasma cell neoplasm. So it is the same like plasma cell population, which is also kind of without the plasma cell neoplasm features. So these two populations, it makes it a CD5, CD10 negative B cell population, and a separate line would be that abnormal plasma cell or abnormal monoclonal plasma cell population is identified. In these plasma cells, there were also surface kappa as well as cytoplasmic light chain restrictions. So the plasma cells were having both. So in such a scenario, you cannot just really say based on flow cytometry. You will just say two lines that there is one abnormal B cell and the second abnormal plasma cell, and then you'll describe both the populations. You'll describe what the immunophenotype of both the populations is. At the end, you're not going to say that is conclusive of LPL. You're not going to rotate that, because again, marginal zone can also express like that, and in this particular case, they are saying that there was extremely high IgM monoclonal spike. So we know that the Waldenstrom's LPL has IgM with hyperviscosity with the IgM paraproteins. And in this case, that was more conclusive of LPL. So that's that. Very good description, Sagarika, that you gave. So then coming to lymphoplasmacytic lymphoma, composed of spectrum of cells ranging from small to mature lymphoid plasma cells. The abnormal B cells, frank plasma cells, and lymphoid cells with plasmacytoid differentiation are all typically identifiable by flow cytometry. The abnormal B cells typically express bright CD19, bright CD20, clonal surface light chain, no CD5 or CD10, without CD5, CD10. Although most commonly reported as negative, CD5 expression is reported in minor subset of cases. CD5 can be present. In majority of the cases that show CD5, there will be weak or variable CD5 if at all present. The large range of percentage of cases reported as positive between series likely reflects differences in the threshold for calling a case positive and the fluorochrome used to label CD5 antibody. The absence of strong and uniform CD5 expression and moderate to bright surface light chain and CD20 allows the differentiation from CLL. So we know that the CLL, it will be dim for CD20. There will be dim for surface light chains. It will be monoclonal, but still dim. And the CD5 can be also dim, but it's again positive in CLL as well. And then there will be expression of 23 in CLL, which is negative in CLL. Sorry, I was getting a call. So which is negative in case of this scenario, marginal zone. So that's the of LPL. So that's that. And they are saying low level of CD23 expression is not uncommon in LPL and is noted in variable subsets of LPL as well. So that should be kept in mind. In cases expressing CD5 correlation with fish, so again, the morphology, fish, and other things are going to help you. MyD88 for the LPL, all those things are going to help you. Cyclin D1 and all those things are going to help you for mantle cell. CD10 expression can be seen, rare cases. You have to see the other features for the follicular and Burkitt's. So that's that. CD25 is expressed in most cases. So CD25, that's a caveat. Don't start thinking it's a hairy cell. The distinction would be that CD103 will be characteristically negative and CD27 is expressed in most cases. However, distinction of, okay. So remember CD25 present in most cases, but go for CD123, which will be negative. Distinction of LPL and marginal zone lymphoma is not possible by flow cytometry because the two low-grade lymphomas have overlapping immunophenotypes. In general, distinction of these neoplasms require clinical, laboratory, and morphologic correlation. Of note, some suggest that expression of CD22 and 25, both reported to be higher, may assist in separating the two entities. So they are saying that marginal zone will have bright CD22 and CD25. That will assist, that can assist, but again, in real world, it is not really conclusive of anything. I mean, maybe to the diggage of the field, but not to the normal population. Lymphoplasmacytic lymphoma is typically associated with plasma cell component. As with primary plasma cell neoplasm, the size of plasma cell component is generally underestimated. So again, you should know that plasma cell neoplasms, the flow cytometry, it hugely underestimates the plasma cell population. And they are saying 5 to 10 times lower than in the flow cytometry. Similarly, in LPL, the plasma cell population that will be estimated will be hugely less than the plasma cell population that is actually present in the particular case. So over here, contrast plasmacytoid component of LPL and primary plasma cell neoplasm. So over here, this is a myeloma or plasma cell neoplasm, and this is your LPL with plasmacytoid component. So again, how we know this is 38 positive, 19 positive. Over here, you don't see a 56 expression. Over here, you see a 56 expression. Over here, the 19 is lost. Over here, the 19 is preserved. So over here, the 45 is lost. Over here, the 45 is preserved. So those are the things that are going to help you. Both of them, they are plasma cell population. However, this is more of LPL or non-plasma cell neoplastic population because it has retained of 45, it is retaining 19, and it is not expressing 56. Over here, it is 45 is lost, 19 is lost, and it is expressing 56. So those two are the differences. And that's it. That concludes our session. Any questions? Anything to add? Raji, do you want to add something?
No, I'm good.
Why the plasma cells are underestimated in flow cytometry?
Say again.
Why the number of plasma cells is underestimated by
So
flow
the
cytometry?
plasma cells, they are not viable and flow cytometry. Many times they get destroyed in flow cytometry. That's why.
And also, it's like a cytoplasmic tube. For assessing plasma cells, you do cytoplasmic kappa lambda. So that is the cytoplasmic tube. So when they lyse this lyse it to enter the cytoplasm, there is some deterioration.
And there are two additional reasons. Like one is they are more clustered around the fragments, bone marrow fragments, so they may not be there in the sample. And generally, what is submitted to flow cytometry is the second push. So the first push, which is submitted for morphology, may have more plasma cells as compared to the sample submitted for flow. So these all factors contribute.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, like, normal plasma cells, what would they express?
Normal plasma cells would express 19, 45, 27. I mean 38 and 138, of course. And abnormal plasma cells will lose 19, 45, and 27, and they might express one or two of the aberrant markers, or all of them, like CD56, 117, and 200.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we should go here. Raji and I should start working on our cases, and you guys should enjoy your evening. Let's conclude the session over here. If you have any questions, ask now. If you have anything to add, tell now, or else we'll just stop the session. All right, guys. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Kudos to your stamina.
Very true.
All right. All right. Bye-bye.